Welcome to another episode of the Irish Craft Beer Show, another one where we're on location. We're in Bray, County Wicklow today, and the reason why we're here was for the Garden County Brewers Homebrew competition earlier. And joining me is John O'Connell, which most people would know as Ciderhead.
Indeed.
Ciderhead. So you organised the Garden County Brewers competition.
We did indeed, actually. Well, very welcome to Wicklow, actually, Ron. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No, we actually had it was a competition actually that we were. Well, what we were trying to do actually was just reinvigorate actually people's idea of red ale actually, and you know, people always sort of say actually. I mean, I personally actually had a pint of red ale actually in Smithwick's actually brewery before they actually kind of closed in Kilkenny, and you know, I do actually genuinely feel it's actually a kind of underappreciated or an underwhelming kind of beer, and we want to kind of generate some passion actually around that.
The whole competition was just BJCP Category 9D.
The whole competition was BJCP Category 9D actually. Yeah. So
Irish red ale.
Irish red ale actually, can't beat it actually. Yeah. So, I think people could have looked at it initially and said, oh, I can't stand red ale. And I'll be frank with you, actually, I was one of those individuals where I didn't really kind of put red ale actually at the top of the picture or top of the league. And what obviously I entered two actually ales myself, and I was pleasantly surprised actually as to potentially what a session beer was. I mean, you can make it as simple or as complex actually as you want. And the simple actually red ales have just some very simple pale malts and some very simple hops in it. The more complicated ones obviously have aromatics, and they have, and personally actually my own entry actually had some unique malt in it, had some aromatic, and had some special B in it. So you can make it as simple or as complex as you want actually.
Complex, yeah. Is there nearly more of a challenge when you're that restricted to see what you can do with the style,
Indeed, yeah. And I think, people actually saw the competition actually as kind of I think a lot of people saw it as, well, just kind of dismissed and sort of said, actually, look, that's very, very simple to do. I'm not going to challenge actually myself on that. Yeah. But, and part of the thing obviously for the competition as well actually is the winner actually has to publish the recipe and share it actually for us. And again, the whole objective obviously was that, there's a lot of focus obviously historically actually on session beers, and, we obviously have a summer session competition actually with the NHC, and that's a fantastic success. And, the beers that came out of that, some of those brewers have gone on to become professional brewers. But from the red perspective, we just were trying to educate people actually about red ale. And as I said, I think, people unfortunately in the past have been a little bit kind of dismissive of it. So, rightly or wrongly actually, but, today was a fantastic experience actually, and it was very pleasant.
So tell me the vital statistics, like how many entries?
The vital statistics are, and sorry, just to concur actually as well, just to add on actually, we also ran actually in parallel actually the NCB actually competition, which was actually category 6 A, B, C and D. North County Brewers indeed actually, yeah. So, and obviously where the objective obviously was to try and kind of come up with a kind of a refreshing kind of pseudo, I'm not going to use the word either, but a pseudo kind of like nice blonde session beer. But the scores on the doors are typically, we actually had 40 entries actually from for the red ale competition. The entries actually came from Cork, Galway, Donegal, literally all parts of the country. The clubs are actually kind of reasonably well kind of represented. Obviously, as we had a strong entry actually obviously from Garden counties. We had a fairly significant prize fund actually for it. The first prize actually was an overnight away actually for you and your partner, and a €150 voucher. Second prize was an overnight away. Third prize was a €150 voucher.
And there's going to be a lot of partners who suddenly
come
around to the idea of homebrewing.
This is, and that's one of the things actually. It's there. We have obviously all these lovely supporting partners, and I think one of the things we go off and brew for 4 or 5 hours of the day. Some of the old grain guys and girls do. And, these are very tolerant and they're very kind of understanding people. And it's time actually that we start reflecting the fact that, they're making a contribution actually to our brewing as well actually. And it's not just a kind of I'm losing you for the day because or us having to brew late into the night. So.
And just having a regular supply of homebrew isn't thanks enough,
well, that's assuming actually that they actually like it. So I think as I said, it's just to reflect the fact that obviously as I say, we don't brew kind of individually. Some of us obviously have young families, and it's tricky obviously a brewer to try and. So it's just a kind of a thank you actually for you and your partner actually to from that side of things actually. Yeah.
So the interesting thing about today's competition was it was my first time ever as a judge. Thank you very much for asking me.
You're very welcome, and thank you for actually taking the time and the effort actually to judge.
I was very scared now. I've never been in that situation. Yeah. I taste beers, have my own opinion on beers, but actually getting it down on paper.
I mean, what we were trying to do obviously is we actually had a fairly substantial. We had just the most recent batch of BJCP certified actually judges. Yeah. And as I said, the competition was exclusive to Bjorn and to the NHC, and we're trying to encourage those sorts of relationships as well actually. Yeah. But I think really we had a fresh batch of recently qualified BJCP judges, and the whole game plan actually was to get some of these guys actually their points on the board, but also actually to improve the overall standard actually of judging actually in the country. So, judging should be a lot more uniform, and I know you sort of have said actually that you hadn't actually judged before, but we obviously paired you up with a seasoned professional judge, and to an extent, actually, I think in your particular case, you're with Brendan. Is that right?
Brendan Murphy.
Exactly. Brendan Murphy, exactly. Brendan Murphy. So like we're where we recognise obviously that somebody hadn't had experience before, the person that we're judging with actually, and equally, I'm sure there was scenarios actually when you're actually judging the beer that you've sort of disagreed with Brendan and expressed your own viewpoint. So it's not just a question of it's a question of sort of saying, look, if that's the level, we're just kind of constantly trying to improve on here. And I think we've been guilty in the past, actually, probably the NAC of putting in what we would perceive to be professional judges. But if we're all operating to a BJCP standard, then it's very easy actually to say that's where the level line is, and actually sort of jump up or jump below that actually.
I found it quite interesting that there was sometimes when there was a beer where personally I would have quite enjoyed it, but it wasn't an Irish Red Ale.
Indeed,
There wasn't too many hop bombs. But some people had decided that dry hopping was a good idea.
A good idea, yeah. Unfortunately, actually, that wasn't. I mean, the actual category, as I said, was it had to be light. It had to be kind of reasonably malty. It had to be light and refreshing. Or if it was overly hoppy, unfortunately, it was going to get marked down. And to be honest with you, there was at least 2 beers that I'm aware of actually in 40 today, where in actual fact they actually were out of sort of style. Fantastic beers in their own right, and absolutely I would drink them all day in, day out. But unfortunately, like if your beer was kind of too close to a bitter, for our particular purpose, actually it wasn't actually right.
Well, you joined me at the Garden County Brewers Red Ale competition, which is my first ever time judging at a competition, so I'm finding it a little bit overwhelming right now. But it's going so well so far. Let's see how it goes.
Let's crack on. We're on 6 now, are we?
Yeah.
Not doing too bad. We're cut up. Colour is a tricky one now because do you think it's on the low end? We need to check the colour if you're not sure.
Yeah.
Don't mind that, that's what my mind is off. Look at it.
Yeah.
It's light brown, dark brown.
It's slightly possible what happened during the summer.
And I've forgotten your bloody charger now, so I'm down to 8% here.
Yeah, it's very light.
But Ciderhead says, it is BJCP, we've got to be careful, but he says don't worry too much. Amber to deep reddish copper. I think it meets amber.
It meets amber. I said light amber, but yeah. There's a lot to think about.
You alright in this one? Are you struggling?
Oh, you better.
It's light. Say that.
Very light, yeah.
Say that. Very light.
That's what I've written down so far. Very light.
If it meets the criteria and it is a light beer, remember we went through it earlier.
It's lighter than it should be, I think. But
Still, it needs a red ale to stand out. So if you think about it doesn't have a chance of getting up there at the top. Decide yourself. I haven't done this yet. I haven't really analysed the flavour yet, but does it fit the criteria in that malty, sweet, caramel, toffee, and dry out with a nice frosty finish? Sometimes it's too light and doesn't actually get there. Other times it's over caramel. So you're really looking at balance there. It certainly fits the refreshing category.
oh yes, definitely.
Carbonation, you could either comment on it or dock on it. It's subjective. Just the extra little bit of carbonation. Generally,
I have docked it for carbonation. I think it's too much.
Yeah, it is, and that may change the mouthfeel and so on. Just another note on when you get something like mouthfeel, remember we said these are objective, and they are. You don't give your own opinions or anything like that, you simply judge these four bits against criteria. This is where it becomes subjective. This is where you could say, although the carbonation was fine, the beer generally was very well balanced and really, my overall, because this is where you get subjective, my impression is the carbonation didn't affect the overall balance of the beer and the enjoyment of the beer, because in today's competition it's about enjoying section of light beer. So just be aware that this is where you can play around a little bit on the overall impression. You're allowed to stray a little bit. You can compare it to the nicest red ale you ever had yourself, or one you had last week, things like that. Really stood out. And it's good. I think it's a great ale shape. This one. I'll score that reasonably well. Pretty well. 13, 29, 33, 41.
I'll give it 37.
As long as you describe and try and justify what you're doing, that's all I'm going to
I thought it was a nice beer. I just thought for an Irish red it was very understated on the flavours still.
I've actually commented there somewhere. Overall, very well balanced red, fresh and drinkable, perhaps version and too light.
Yeah, so
you write in your own words, it's right. Yeah. And it is very, very nice.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more hint of caramel, even a hint of diacetyl with a bit more roast. That would have been a superb beer. No off flavours.
No,
Did
it's
you
like
like it?
no off flavours. No, I've ranked it highly in everything except flavour. I've docked it just because I would like to have seen more there for an Irish red. But decent beer.
Glad that's over. After a tiring morning tasting beer, we decided to relax with a beer, this time in a non-judgmental capacity. Meanwhile, we left those professional judges and those who didn't have a beer to get through the second round to judge the best of show. So 2 beers from my table went through to the best of show. I was actually quite interested to see how those judges' comments compared to what I told them.
I would actually seriously like to thank everybody for coming today. Actually, I mean, I know you're all recently, some of you are actually recently qualified BJCP judges, guys. We really do appreciate actually, your efforts actually today. Actually, and like it doesn't happen obviously without you. I know I tested some of you actually with 10 or 12 beers to taste, but you did a fantastic job. And there was some, as I said, for sure, we had some right pups in there, but we had some good beer action there as well, actually. So I really would like to thank, round of applause actually for yourselves, actually, as good as and thanks for coming obviously out to Bray. As I said, thank God there was no dart strike today. I wouldn't have had a single judge. But so look, as I said, thank you very much for your effort and your energy and for sticking with us actually. And so literally, I'll throw the floor open to Will actually now for the NCB results.
Okay, well again, thanks to everybody for entering the NCB. Pity more people from outside the NCB entered our competition than inside, but sure, we'll get it better for the next competition. So in third place is somebody we know well as a great brewer with an amazing surname, Burslem Rothero. Most people know him as Dodge. Dodge was third with an American wheat beer.
And what does Dodge actually win, Will, for his third place?
A tenner.
Good man, Dodge.
Yeah.
Listen, all helps.
So, and in second place is Brent Murphy.
Hey!
And then in first place, I think we should have a recount on this.
I would.
There's someone we know and love called John O'Connell, first place.
And honestly, I'm just going to say for the record, it was totally impartial. somebody who judged criticised her husband's beer. I don't know. It was a really tight race, guys. The standard was very, very high, and I said, I'll publish the rest of the action.
So,
no, I was laughing as we were getting on. I was trying to keep a straight face. Obviously, presented the beer, but judges for the record as a witness, it was impartial, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
And Quincy was impartial. There was no bias actually from.
I wasn't looking at you when you were winking and not.
No, but you got the 50 though.
So anyway, on behalf of the North County, I'd really like to thank everybody down here. We had so few people, it was hardly going to fill the borough. So we came down here, and our John has done a lot of work and a lot of out of pocket. So the good news is he at least gets his €50 back from me.
Thank you. It was a kind of a tight run thing actually. The actual winning beer was it was a blonde ale. And I actually used I used a Tainham. And funny enough actually, it's a recipe actually that I got. It's a kind of a version actually, funny enough actually, that I got, which is a kind of a clone of a homebrew a homebrew company extract recipe. So as I said, anyway, it was. But I like it actually. It's the Atenum actually. I think Dempsey supplied me the hops, and I think actually this man over there actually gave me some hops as well actually for it. So, but I'll publish the recipe anyway because it's all about sort of sharing. Right now, onto the main event. Okay, and again, the judging was really, I have to say, the best of show judges. The standard was excellent. There wasn't any dominant personalities. There wasn't anybody sort of, it was very, very balanced. They were all kind of in agreement. It got really squeaky down to the last two. Really squeaky actually the last two. And I think all of the judges kind of concurred that it could have gone either way actually, but just the one that won by a nose. I have obviously some notes actually here, obviously, which I will circulate to the respective people that got through to various sort of stages. I'm just going to do 4, 3, 2, 1. Is that all right? Or unless you want to hear it the whole lot, actually. Yeah. So basically, actually, in fourth place, actually, Cathal McDermott with his Cahill's No Name beer. And he had beer, and literally there wasn't actually no name on it. Actually, in third place, Nathan Murray with Red Arse Burn. In second place, and again it was a kind of a marginal actually between the two, was somebody else actually here that we know, and literally the name of his beer actually was just called literally number 1 and number 2. He obviously spent a huge amount of time, effort and energy making it. That was actually me. And again, I didn't say anything to the judges, I just told you. And in first place, actually, with he called it, literally just called it actually Red Ale, was actually John Craddock. Okay, so as I said, again, congratulations actually to John. John actually wins. Just to remind everybody, the prize is actually for first, second, third. Where first prize actually was an overnight away actually, and a restaurant voucher actually anywhere he wants in the country actually for €150. Second prize was an overnight away. Third prize actually was a dinner for €150. So as I said, well done to John actually and the other. And sorry, to be honest with you, actually well done to actually everybody that entered. It was we thought it was going to be kind of tough, but as I said, there was some really highly commended actually beer. So as I said,
What are you going to call your beer, John? I think you'll have to call it actually.
I think I'm going to call it actually. That was fucking lucky. Or not enough money in the brown envelope.
I have to say it was close. It was Pippin first place. That one. They were very close.
Look, it was a great competition actually, and it was great fun to run, and we'll definitely do something again actually like this actually obviously next year. And again, sincere thanks actually to all those actually took the trouble to enter actually. It was actually it was. I know some of the judges actually there was some really good beers out there, not so good beers, but people made the effort to enter, and that's what we're all about. And critically, actually, we have a standard of judge actually now as well, actually, that allows us to actually, ensure that we have sort of consistent results in terms of our panel. But again, thank you for the best of show judges, even the professional ones. Thank you, folks. All right.
Put a bus for John.
And so regular viewers of this podcast will be quite happy for the person who won today. Congratulations to John Craddock.
John Craddock, well done actually, yeah.
And that guy who came second as well.
I don't know who that was actually, yeah. As I said, no, you're very welcome actually, yeah. No, thank you for the judges that actually made the effort today. Without the judges and without the entrants actually we wouldn't have a competition. And as I said, I know there were significant participants actually from Buren for the NHC, and it's really appreciate the efforts and energy they actually went to trouble.
Thank you very much for organising the competition. Yeah. It was very well put together, and we all had a great time, and cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Thanks again to Holland of Bray for hosting the competition, and of course to the Wicklow Wolf Brewery for hosting the after party. The Irish Craft Beer Show is now also available in an audio podcast form. Download us on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio, and if you're like me and using Windows Phone, we're on Podcast Lounge. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter @ICB Show and give us a like on Facebook in facebook.com/ICB Show.